Hello, welcome to Phantom Homicide, the obsession and brutality of the Travis Alexander murder.
We are definitely diving deep today into a case that really became this huge spectacle. It's almost like a template for how true crime, digital evidence, and the media can just explode together.
It really is, and when you look at just the basic facts, it hits you immediately. The sheer psychological horror of it. Travis Alexander, he was 30, seemed charismatic, successful salesman, motivational speaker type in Mesa, Arizona, found dead June 2008.
And not just dead. The way he was killed was incredibly brutal, incredibly personal.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking, what, 27 stab wounds, plus his throat was slit. I mean, a really catastrophic wound. Severed the jugular vein, the carotid artery, the trachea. Just devastating.
And on top of all that, a gunshot wound to the head. It's a horrifying picture.
It really screams intimate partner violence, just taken to the absolute extreme.
Right. And that's kind of our mission here today, isn't it? To try and get past the sort of media frenzy, HLN coverage, the whole daytime soap opera vibe it had.
Yeah, sift through all that noise.
Exactly. And pull out the actual evidence, the facts. What can we really learn from this? Because ultimately, this deep dive is about how deception, like layer upon layer of lies, was just systematically taken apart by forensics, by technology.
And that camera, we'll get into that. It literally captured the truth, didn't it?
It really did. It's chilling.
So we know the outcome. Jodi Arias, his ex-girlfriend, convicted. First-degree murder in 2013, sentenced to life without parole in 2015. But, to really grasp the brutality, the whole legal mess that followed, we need to go back. We need to understand the people involved, their history, because it was volatile.
Yeah, let's set the stage. Okay, so Travis Alexander. On the surface, a success story, especially considering his background.
Right, he didn't have the easiest start, did he?
No, not at all. Born in Riverside, California. Sounds like a pretty troubled childhood. There are implications of drug abuse in the household. He ended up living with his paternal grandparents from age 8.
And lost his father fairly young, too, in 97.
Yeah. But like you said, maybe that difficult start kind of fueled him. He became this really successful salesman, motivational speaker for prepaid legal services, PPL.
Which was a big deal, that company culture. It seemed like professional success and faith were really intertwined there.
Definitely. And he was a devout member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the LDS Church. That was a huge part of his public identity.
So you have this public-facing, devout, successful salesman, Travis.
Exactly. The LDS connection was central. But, like a lot of people, there were complexities, contrasts.
Like a stand-up comedy thing.
Yeah. Under the name Eddie Snell. It's this interesting little hidden side, isn't it? The spiritual salesman versus the maybe edgier comedian. It hints at maybe some compartmentalization, something that definitely got dissected later in court.
Okay, so that's Travis. What about Jodi Arias?
Her background is a bit different. Born in Salinas, California, didn't finish high school, dropped out in 11th grade, worked various jobs, waitress, aspiring photographer, and then she also got into the PPL sales world.
Ah, so that's the connection. Prepaid legal.
That's where they met. September 2006, a PPL conference in Las Vegas. Apparently, the connection was pretty instant. Intense.
Built on that shared professional world, maybe. And the spiritual side, too, initially.
Seems like it. Arias actually converted to the LDS faith. And get this, Alexander himself baptized her. November 26, 2006.
Wow. Okay, so that sounds pretty serious.
It escalated quickly. They started dating officially,
Yeah.
February 2007. But the relationship was kind of on again, off again, tumultuous. Lasted about a year and a half, often long distance.
She moved to Mesa for a bit, right? To be closer.
She did, yeah, but then went back to Eureka, California in April 2008. So that distance was definitely a factor. And tumultuous seems like an understatement based on what his friends said.
What did they say?
Well, the sources say his friends consistently described the relationship as unusually tumultuous. They really didn't like her, found her behavior worrying, even early on.
So red flags were there for the people around him.
Apparently. And the official breakup, June 2007, wasn't really the end of it. That's key.
Right. They kept interacting.
Yeah, they continued a sexual relationship. Sort of friends with benefits, but maybe way more complicated than that. Lots of explicit messaging, sexting, even when he was trying to date other women.
That sounds messy. Like a dependency.
Exactly. Deep emotional sexual connection, even after the official split. And that's where it seems to veer into obsession territory.
Because his friends started noticing more than just drama, right? Actual stalking behavior?
That's what they claimed he told them. Things like accessing his Facebook without permission, slashing his tires. I mean, these details even came up in the initial 911 call after his body was found. Friends immediately pointed to her history.
Okay, so the tension is just building and building, and then comes the catalyst, the final trigger.
It really looks like it.
Yeah.
Alexander was planning a trip, Cancun, Mexico, with another woman, Mimi Hall, scheduled to leave June 10th, 2008.
So he was definitively moving on, trying to, anyway.
And for someone maybe showing obsessive traits or, the personality disorder issues discussed later, that idea of being replaced, fully rejected, could be the absolute breaking point.
So she finds out about this trip.
And just days before he's supposed to leave, she drives from California to Arizona. It really paints a picture of a preemptive, maybe rage-fueled response to that perceived abandonment. It's chilling.
Okay, so let's shift to the crime itself. The Cancun trip was planned for June 10th. The murder happened almost a week before, on Wednesday, June 4th, 2008.
Right. Arias makes that long drive, California to Mesa, Arizona.
To his home.
And the location,
Yeah.
the bathroom, while he's showering.
Yeah, I mean, talk about vulnerability. It suggests he was caught completely off guard. In his own home, in perhaps the most private space.
And the violence. Dr. Horn's testimony laid it out. It wasn't just a quick act.
No, not at all. We need to really unpack the brutality to understand the mindset. Those 27 to 29 stab wounds. What does that tell forensic analysts?
It's overkill, right? Way beyond what's needed to cause death. Exactly. It suggests extreme rage, uncontrolled fury. You see this kind of overkill often in crimes of passion, especially with intimate partners. It's like the goal isn't just to kill, but to destroy, obliterate.
And the defensive wounds.
On his hands, yes. Clear evidence that he fought back, that this was a struggle, likely prolonged and terrifying for him. There were shallower wounds on his back, too.
And then the fatal blows. The throat slit was horrific on its own.
Catastrophic.
Yeah.
Severing everything vital: jugular, carotid artery, trachea. That alone would have been fatal, rapidly.
But there was more.
There was. The single gunshot wound to the forehead, using two different weapons, a knife and a gun that often points to a frenzy, an escalation that's just out of control.
Was there debate about when the shot happened? Like, was he already dead?
There was some discussion, yeah. Medical testimony initially suggested he might have been dead or dying when shot, but the exact sequence wasn't definitively pinned down, I believe. Either way, it's this multifaceted assault designed for maximum trauma. Utter destruction.
And then, silence. For days. His body wasn't found until June 9th.
5 days, which allowed for, significant decomposition.
Yeah.
That complicated the scene in some ways, but it also highlights that the killer got away clean initially, managed to conceal the crime right afterwards.
What finally raised the alarm?
He missed things. An important PPL conference call. And then, obviously, he didn't show up for the Cancun trip. Friends got worried.
So they went to check on him.
Yeah. They got a key, went inside, and found the scene. Large pools of blood leading to the master bathroom, and Travis in the shower.
Oh, God. And the friends immediately suspected her.
Pretty much straight away.
Yeah.
The 911 dispatcher asked, was he suicidal? Was anyone angry with him? And the friends didn't hesitate. They named Jodi Arias. Mentioned the past, stalking, the tires.
Incredible. But the real bombshell was the digital evidence, wasn't it? The camera.
Absolutely revolutionary for this case. Police found his digital camera, apparently fairly new, in the washing machine. Damaged. Submerged.
She tried to destroy the evidence.
Totally. Tried to wash away the digital ghost of her presence.
No.
But forensic investigators, they worked magic. They recovered deleted images from that camera's memory card.
Okay, let's unpack that, because this is the core of the prosecution's case, isn't it? How did those recovered pictures just blow her stories apart?
They provided a timestamp timeline.
Yeah.
Irrefutable. They pulled images from around 1:40 p.m. on June 4th, showing Arias and Alexander together. Sexually suggestive poses, intimate.
Which completely contradicts any story about her being attacked immediately upon arrival or anything like that.
Exactly. Then, fast forward a few hours, the last photo of Travis alive, 5:29 p.m. in the shower, just moments before the attack.
And then the accidental photos?
Yeah. This is the truly chilling part. In the struggle, the chaos, the camera inadvertently captured several more shots. Blurry, frantic images. But they showed someone, believed to be Travis, profusely bleeding on the bathroom floor. And another shot clearly showed part of what looked like Arias's leg.
So the camera caught the act itself, or the immediate aftermath?
Pretty much. The violence, the struggle, accidentally documented by the victim's own camera she tried to destroy. You couldn't write it.
And this digital evidence was backed up by physical proof too, right?
Oh, yeah. Sealed the deal. That bloody palm print found on the wall in the hallway near the bathroom. Forensics confirmed it contained DNA from both Arias and Alexander.
Meaning she was there, bleeding herself, or covered in his blood during or right after the struggle.
Precisely. Plus, they found a strand of hair, consistent with hers, in the blood near him. And then the gun. His .25 caliber handgun was missing. The caliber matched. The bullet recovered.
So the weapon was his own gun, taken from him, likely.
Seems that way. The sheer amount of evidence, digital DNA, trace, ballistics, it just built this overwhelming, undeniable case against her.
Okay, so the evidence is overwhelming, locked down. You'd think that would be it, but Arias, she just kept changing her story, didn't she? It was this whole campaign of deception.
Absolutely. It started immediately. Her first move was just flat-out denial.
Like, wasn't me, wasn't there.
Exactly. Claimed she hadn't been in Mesa on June 4th at all. Said the last time she saw Travis was months earlier, back in March 2008. She even went on TV, Inside Edition, in September 2008, incredibly confident.
That's the famous quote, right?
Yeah. No jury is going to convict me because I am innocent, and you can mark my words on that. Just chillin', knowing what the police already had.
So how long did that denial last? Until they confronted her with the evidence?
Pretty much. Once the police presented the palm print, the photos, she knew pure denial wouldn't work anymore. So she pivoted to story number 2, the intruders.
Ah, yes, the mysterious masked intruders.
Right. Suddenly, she was there, but she wasn't the killer. She claimed 2 intruders, a man and a woman, broke in, murdered Travis, and somehow attacked her too. But she managed to escape, unharmed.
Which makes zero sense. Why would intruders kill him like that and then let her go? And why would they mess with the camera?
Exactly. No signs of forced entry. The whole camera, the washing machine thing just didn't fit that narrative at all. It was clearly fabricated. Police saw through it pretty quickly.
So that story fell apart. And then, years later, comes the final version. Self-defense.
Yeah, this took a while to emerge. Like 2 years after her arrest. This required a complete rewrite of everything. Suddenly, she was the victim.
Claiming Alexander was abusive.
Physically and emotionally abusive, she alleged. Her story became that he attacked her in a rage, supposedly because she dropped his precious new camera, and she killed him purely in self-defense. A fight for her life, as she put it.
So the extreme violence, the stabbing, the throat slitting, that was all panic. Fight or flight.
That was the claim. She even argued she had memory suppression, couldn't recall the most brutal parts because of the trauma and acute stress.
But her behavior right after the killing, that completely undermines the terrified victim act, doesn't it?
Massively. This is a huge contradiction. The very next day, she drives to Salt Lake City and meets up with another guy she knew, Ryan Burns.
And how did she seem to him?
He testified she seemed fine. Normal. Which is pretty weird if you've just gone through this supposedly terrifying life or death struggle.
Did he notice anything unusual, though?
He did. 2 things stood out. Her hair color, she'd gone from blonde to dark brown very suddenly. And she had cuts on her hands.
What was her excuse for the cuts?
Get this. She told him she cut them on broken glass at a restaurant called Margaritaville. Police later confirmed there was no Margaritaville restaurant where she claimed. Just another lie. A really clumsy one.
Wow. The casualness of the lying is something else.
It really is. It suggests a detachment, maybe, and her actions with the rental car also pointed away from panic and towards cover-up.
What about the car?
She returned it on June 7th, logged about 2,800 miles on it. Crucially, the floor mats were missing. Police suspected she removed them because they contained blood or other evidence, and there were red stains inside, suggesting she tried to clean it.
Missing floor mats, cleaning attempts, changing hair color, fake alibis. It doesn't sound like someone acting in self-defense.
Not at all. It sounds like someone trying very hard to cover their tracks.
Premeditation?
Deliberate destruction of evidence. It all pointed in one direction.
Which led to the indictment.
Yep. Indicted July 9, 2008. Arrested 6 days later in California. Pleaded not guilty on September 11th. And that set the stage for one of the most watched trials in recent memory.
Okay, so the trial kicks off January 2013, and it just exploded into this national obsession, right? Televised live every day.
Oh, absolutely. Non-stop coverage. And the prosecution, led by Juan Martinez, came out swinging. Their whole case was built around proving premeditation, directly attacking that self-defense narrative.
How did they argue premeditation? What was the key evidence there?
They focused on the planning before she even got to Arizona. They argued she staged a burglary at her grandparents' house, specifically to steal the .25 caliber handgun she used.
So getting the weapon wasn't accidental, it was planned.
That was the prosecution's contention, yes. And then the trip itself. Martinez highlighted how she bought gas cans, prepaid for gas to avoid using credit cards in Arizona, creating a traceable record.
Trying to stay off the grid.
Exactly. And turning off her cell phone while driving through Arizona. All these little steps, they argued, showed careful planning, a mission to kill and get away with it, not a spontaneous act of self-preservation.
Did they use Alexander's own words, too?
They did. They introduced a text message he'd sent, calling Arias evil, trying to show the jury that he was afraid of her shortly before his death.
Okay, so that's the prosecution. Premeditation, planning, cover-up. What was the defense strategy? It had to be all in on self-defense and abuse, right?
Completely. And the centerpiece of that was putting Arias herself on the stand. For an incredibly long time, 18 days.
18 days. That's unprecedented almost.
It really is. It shows how much they needed her testimony to try and counter the physical evidence.
Yeah.
They needed to humanize her, make her sympathetic, and demonize Alexander.
How did they try to do that?
Well, she talked a lot about alleged abuse, not just from Alexander, but also from her parents growing up. And then they went deep into the details of her sex life with Travis. Very graphic, very controversial.
That's where the X-rated phone sex tape came in.
Yeah, that was a huge moment in the trial. Playing that tape where Alexander talks about tying her up, sodomizing her, and she replies something like, "That is so debasing, I like it."
What was the point of playing that? To shock the jury?
Pretty much. To paint Alexander as deviant, maybe unstable, capable of the kind of rage Arias described, to muddy the waters about who the real aggressor was in the relationship.
And she claimed physical abuse, too.
Yes. She held up her hand, showed the jury her crooked ring finger, and claimed Alexander broke it during an argument, trying to provide concrete proof of his violence.
Did they try to use his own words against him again, like that sociopath comment?
They alluded to it. Apparently, there were emails where a friend warned Alexander about pursuing Arias, and he supposedly replied something like, "I am a bit of a sociopath." The defense tried to get that idea in front of the jury, even if the emails themselves weren't formally admitted.
So the defense strategy was essentially, he was abusive, maybe even a sociopath, and she snapped in self-defense.
That was the narrative. But the prosecution countered hard, bringing in other women Alexander had dated who testified he was never violent or angry with them, directly contradicting Arias.
Which leads us to the battle of the expert witnesses, the psychologists.
Right. This became a real war of the experts. The defense brought in Alice Laviolette, a psychotherapist who testified Arias fit the profile of a domestic abuse victim.
Okay.
Then they had psychologist Richard Samuels. He diagnosed her with PTSD and acute stress disorder from the alleged abuse.
Right.
He argued the killing happened during a fight-or-flight state, causing memory gaps. He conceded premeditation was possible, but argued it was not probable given her psychological state.
So PTSD supporting the self-defense claim, how did the prosecution rebut that?
With their own expert, clinical psychologist Dr. Janine DeMart, and she came to a completely different conclusion. No PTSD, she said, not an abuse victim. Instead, she diagnosed Arias with borderline personality disorder, or BPD.
BPD. How is that different in terms of the case?
Hugely different. BPD is characterized by things like unstable relationships, fear of abandonment, impulsivity, intense anger. It fit the prosecution's narrative of obsession, manipulation, and rage much better than PTSD fit the defense's narrative.
So it paints her actions not as a reaction to trauma, but as stemming from her own personality disorder.
Exactly. The defense tried one more rebuttal with another psychologist, Robert Geffner, who criticized the BPD diagnosis and the tests used, arguing for an anxiety disorder instead. But the damage was probably done.
It sounds like a really confusing back and forth for the jury.
It must have been.
Yeah.
But in the end, the physical evidence, the photos, the changing stories, it was just too much to overcome.
So the verdict.
May 8, 2013. After about 15 hours of deliberation, the jury came back, guilty of first-degree murder.
And crucially, they found premeditation.
All 12 jurors found premeditation, and significantly, 7 of them also found felony murder.
What does the felony murder finding mean?
It means they believe the killing occurred during the commission of another felony, likely burglary, related to entering the home to commit the crime, or maybe theft related to the gun. It adds another layer that undercuts the spontaneous self-defense idea.
Okay, so guilty. Then it moves to the penalty phase. Death penalty on the table.
Yes. The jury first had to decide if the murder qualified as cruel, heinous, or depraved under Arizona law to make her eligible for death.
And did they?
Quickly, yes. Martinez, the prosecutor, did this dramatic thing where he described the injuries and then just stood in silence for 2 minutes, trying to make the jury feel how long Alexander might have suffered. The jury agreed it met this standard for aggravation.
But then Arias herself spoke to the jury, right? The allocution.
She did, and it was something else. She completely reversed her previous statements where she'd said she preferred death. Now, she pleaded for a life sentence.
Why the change of heart?
She claimed it was to spare her family pain. But then she did this really bizarre, controversial thing. She held up a T-shirt that said "Survivor" on it.
Seriously, after being convicted of first-degree murder.
Yes. And offered to donate profits from selling her artwork to domestic abuse charities. Still clinging to that victim narrative, even then, it was widely criticized as manipulative.
Did it work? Did she avoid the death penalty?
Not immediately. That first penalty phase jury deadlocked. 8 voted for death, 4 for life. In Arizona, you need a unanimous vote for death.
So a mistrial on the sentencing.
Correct.
Correct.
Which meant they had to do a whole new sentencing retrial with a new jury just on the penalty. That happened in 2014, 2015.
And the outcome of the second try.
Another deadlock. This time, even closer. 11 jurors voted for death, but just 1 held out for life.
Wow. One juror saved her from the death penalty.
Twice, essentially. After the second hung jury, under Arizona law, the judge, Sherry Stevens, had no choice but to impose the sentence herself.
Which was
Life in prison without the possibility of parole. Handed down on April 13th, 2015. She avoided execution, but she'll never get out. It really shows how even with overwhelming guilt evidence, getting 12 people to agree on death is incredibly difficult, especially when the defense throws up enough smoke about abuse or mental state.
We absolutely have to talk about the media frenzy around this trial. It wasn't just news, it was entertainment.
Oh, it was peak true crime spectacle. People called it a circus,
Yeah.
a runaway train, a live daytime soap opera, and it went global. That mix of elements, jealousy, religion, sex, brutal murder, it was irresistible to the media.
And the live TV coverage played a huge role, right?
Massive. Arizona allows cameras in the courtroom, and networks like HLN just ran with it. Non-stop coverage, analysis, speculation. HLN even boasted about their ratings during Arias' allocution. The trial became content, consumed like reality TV.
Did that intense scrutiny affect the legal process itself?
It seemed to. There was that instance where Judge Stevens tried to allow a mystery witness to testifying in private during the penalty phase. But the Court of Appeals overruled her, citing transparency. The courts were constantly balancing fair trial rights against this immense public and media pressure.
And that pressure didn't just stay in the courtroom, did it? It spilled out, got ugly.
Really ugly. The social media reaction was toxic. Defense experts faced horrific harassment. Alice Laviolette, the psychologist who testified about abuse, she got death threats. People flooded Amazon with negative reviews for a book she hadn't even published yet. It was like an electronic lynch mob, as someone described it.
That's terrifying. Did the jurors face backlash too?
Yes, particularly the foreman from the first trial, William Zervakos, and Juror 17, the woman who was the lone holdout for life in the second penalty trial. They received death threats. Their personal information got leaked online. It's a chilling example of how public outrage, fueled by media saturation, can directly target people involved in the justice system.
And Arias herself, she seemed to almost thrive on the attention, didn't she? Even from prison.
It appeared that way sometimes. Her brother was selling her artwork on eBay, claiming the money was for family travel and, bizarrely, better food for her in jail. She also reportedly maintained a social media presence through friends, still trying to control the narrative, perhaps.
What about the legal aftermath? Appeals.
Oh yeah, there were appeals. The main argument centered on the prosecutor, Juan Martinez. His conduct during the trial was heavily criticized as egregious, self-promoting, overly aggressive, even inappropriate at times. He faced disciplinary action later for unrelated issues too.
So did the appeals based on his misconduct go anywhere?
Ultimately, no. In 2020, the Arizona Court of Appeals upheld her conviction. They acknowledged Martinez's behavior was problematic, sometimes even improper, but ruled that Arias wasn't convicted because of him. She was convicted because the evidence against her was simply overwhelming.
And the Supreme Court.
The Arizona Supreme Court declined to review the case. So, the conviction is final. Life without parole stands.
What about the cost? This must have been incredibly expensive.
Hugely expensive.
Yeah.
Estimates put the cost to Arizona taxpayers around $3 million for the investigation and trials. And Arias was ordered to pay restitution over $32,000 to Travis Alexander's siblings for their losses, though collecting that is likely another matter.
So she remains in prison, Perryville Complex in Arizona.
Yep. And the case remains this stark example, a cautionary tale about obsessive relationships, the power of deception, but also how forensic evidence, especially digital evidence, can ultimately cut through the lies. Travis Alexander's name is now just forever linked to the brutality of how he died and the woman who killed him.
When you boil it all down, the camera, the DNA, the palm print, the changing stories, the sheer weight of the evidence just crushed any narrative she tried to build. The truth, literally captured on film, refused to be washed away.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? In our world now, with digital footprints everywhere, texts, photos, location data, is it even possible to commit the perfect murder anymore? Or is human emotion, that kind of extreme rage and obsession we saw here, always going to leave a trace, regardless of the technology? Something to think about.
Okay, so we hope you liked our today's discussion. For more such discussions, subscribe to our channel, Phantom Homicide.